Yeah, so the Big Ten has introduced their new scheduling models for 2024 and 2025, the Flex Protect Plus football schedule, and there's a lot to unpack from this. Like, I would imagine if you're doing like a Big Ten podcast, that you've got like 2 hours to just discuss the schedule and don't have to even touch on anything else. And it's way too much to sort of unpack here. I know that initially Nebraska fans are pissed, apparently, because they got a really rough draw, although I don't know if Matt Rule's commented on it officially. I just saw a tweet in passing where, people were complaining about the schedule, and someone made the comment of whether it was because they were informed by him or not that, Matt Rule's not worried about it. And, we know him. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he's just ready to plow through and play whoever they've got. But we do know who's going to play who now over the next couple of years, although they don't have the details on weekends and exactly, what dates and things of that nature. But it's apparently took them, according to the article in The Athletic, 171 versions to arrive at the final setup. The most difficult part will be the building and sequencing the dates, because you have to work around, according to one of the quotes in there, the non-conference games, and those vary and all of that. So they still have to iron that out, but they have tried to check every box, and it seems like, it's a pretty interesting look to see who the permanent opponents are and the rotating opponents. And the point being that by, I think it's 2025, everybody will have played everybody in some form or fashion.
Twice every 4 years, if they're not your so-called rival opponent.
But then it gets a little confusing, and that's what I mean is sitting here trying to figure it out as best I could. But like the rotating opponents versus some have perma opponents, some don't, some it depends on years. Like it's not just black and white. Like there's a little bit of gray in some areas that I need to just read more about. But interesting to see that released. Interesting to see, who USC, UCLA are going to be playing, who some of the bigger matchups will be. And obviously this will be no division. So we can get into it a little bit. But what did y'all just initial impressions looking at it?
Let me go to Nebraska real quick.
Yeah.
Remember the first year they joined the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Do you know who they played that first year?
Yeah.
Remember,
it was the
back
gauntlet.
then, they had Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State. I think that was the year before they played Baylor, a year or two before they won the Big Ten. Iowa, and then Minnesota, Northwestern, and Minnesota and Northwestern are as good, if not better. But, yeah, they seem to, no matter what. Remember during COVID when they got bitch slapped because they were complaining about wanting to play, you know what? I don't know how these all work.
I know their schedule in 24, Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Indiana, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Just get better. Shut up and get better. But that one, when they started, they played every single team that mattered in the Big Ten their opening year.
Yeah.
And they were actually pretty good, made a bowl game.
Here's what I think. I commend the Big Ten, long the conference of no innovation. I mean, they were
sluggish.
Jim Delaney was the one of we're not going to innovate. We're not going to do this. This is how college athletics is going to be. I've spoken. Now please leave me alone. I do think this is innovative, and it's taken all the scheduling mistakes of the past. The Big 12, when they formed, was really dumb in that they separated North and South and then did this rotating thing where it ended some rivalries and took the juice. Like they were not – this should have been the early test case of hey, if you take your best TV games off of TV every couple of years, maybe you shouldn't do that. And with television driving this thing, this is going to be the most important TV games. Yeah, Penn State does not have an every-year rival, okay? They don't. But, again, they are relative newbies to the conference, too. I know that most people may not realize that, but they were a major independent until the 90s, and then they joined the Big Ten. So they don't have 100-year rivalries like Michigan, Ohio State, or Michigan, Michigan State, or Iowa, and all these things that were in the league. I like the innovation of it. It's a little bit confusing, Craig, like you said, but at least they're going to have their best games on TV every year.
Twice every 4 years, they're going to have big boy games.
And you're always going to have the big boy games and crossing over, and you're not going to wait, 14 years to play somebody once.
Yeah, it just gets confusing when they talk about Flex Protect Plus. I mean, that's the name of the scheduling model, but then they get into two-play opponents, and there's little intricacies to where, like I said, it's not all just black and white, everything about everything for the next several years. There's little caveats that have to be made because of one scheduling issue or another. Maybe this rivalry game doesn't get played the exact same spot it has been because that's what they had to do. But there are 11 rivalries that are permanent given the schedule that will be played every single year. That includes Michigan-Ohio State, of course, Michigan-Michigan State, Minnesota-Wisconsin.
A note about Michigan State. There were some fans that said it doesn't mean as much. The AD manual at Michigan said we must protect that rivalry with Michigan State, and I understand why they wouldn't. I like the fact that they're still going to play.
Who would have thought that
maybe the fans are bored with it. I don't know. I can't. I never would have known that.
Michigan State, Minnesota-Wisconsin, Minnesota-Iowa, Wisconsin-Iowa, Nebraska-Iowa, Indiana-Purdue, Illinois-Purdue, Illinois-Northwestern, USC-UCLA, and Maryland-Rutgers. Those are all the permanent 11 rivalries that will be played every single year, and each team will, have their own variations, but everybody should play everybody within a couple of years and not have some nonsense like it's, you don't see anybody for like 10 years when you've been in the league.
Like A&M and Georgia.
Like the A&M and Georgia example that always comes up. So if you got some time to kill and you're really interested in scheduling and how all that works and this new era where we're going into of, having the most loaded matchups possible, it certainly gives you some of that and a lot to sort through. So fun to see that drop, and I believe the SEC's is coming out very, very soon. I just saw it earlier, and I don't want to say I don't think it's tomorrow, but it's it's very soon. I think that SEC schedule for the 2024 season should be coming out from what I saw earlier.
Well, look, it might be good. I'm not going to knock it, but the Big Ten has trumped them in a big way here with the way that they had all their fighting, and the Big Ten came up with this really innovative way, and the SEC is going to come out. That's kind of like the opening act coming on after Elton John. I've seen Rocket Man. I don't.
You know what? The SEC copy and paste what the Big Ten did and shut up. Just do it.
I think they should copy and paste the schedule the way that they did it.
Copy and paste that algorithm or the formula and move on.
All right. Well, like I said, that schedule will be released soon, June 14th, the official date that we will find out. So less than a week away from getting our eyes on that 2024 schedule that will now include Oklahoma and Texas as well. So that'll be very interesting to check out. Meanwhile, got a lot of action